Hi, and welcome to The Content Engine. Today's guest is Joel Goobich, a serial entrepreneur with a passion for strategic planning and business growth. Joel's specific expertise lies in video marketing. He helps SMB and enterprise-level clients leverage video throughout their entire business process, from sales to marketing to customer retention, utilizing his big picture video marketing methodology. In today's episode, Joel and I are going to dive deep into everything video marketing, from some of the most common challenges that businesses face in their approach to video, how to move your video strategy beyond just YouTube, how to get your team to really speak the language of video, and some of the trends that he sees in content marketing over the next few years. Let's get started. Hello, Joel. Thank you for being on the show today.
Well, thank you, Alex. I'm looking forward to a conversation.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So to dive right in, I'd love to know, as a serial entrepreneur, someone who's been an entrepreneur for most of your life, when did you first think that you really wanted to dive into video marketing, becoming an expert at video marketing as your next pursuit?
As the next stage in my career, well, I honestly did not think that it was going to be part of it. And around 10 years ago or so, as I was busy in a previous version of my career, I was doing a lot of business consulting. And I got to a point where I found that the one-to-one relationship that you need to have in a consulting mode was not really a good business model. And so what I wanted to do was take all the lessons that I had created, all of the content that I had in my head from consulting, from helping businesses grow, and I wanted to scale it. I wanted to turn that into something that I did it once and that I could repeat it over and over again without having to repeat it myself. And so I started learning the whole concept of instructional design, and it was really at the point where lynda.com and those type of companies were starting to evolve. And that's when I started to learn the whole concept and understand the concept that imagery and video can go together with content. And that was really the genesis of my entry into video and video marketing.
Interesting. So you just kind of separated video and images from the idea of content. Why do you feel that those aren't one and the same thing?
Well, they can be and often are. I think that we have a mindset that content is written or audio, but mostly when I say content to people, they tend to think blogs and reading something, because that's the natural way that we consumed content for years. And then as things have progressed, we got into more audio and then more into to imagery. Imagery has always been a big part of it, but still imagery. Video imagery has really taken off like crazy. So when I say content, I'm thinking of every single way that you can get content across. But I still think that there is a mindset in most people's approach to content that they're still thinking it as something that is written and hand-delivered to you versus being something imagery and interactive.
Absolutely. And when you mentioned that that difference in mindset, I think that also comes out in terms of how a lot of businesses will first approach video, and thinking they just need one video to solve this one problem, but they're not thinking about it in terms of content marketing, in terms of that consistent. So as someone who's worked with a lot of businesses to formulate their video marketing strategy, what are some of those pitfalls or those main challenges that you've seen?
Well, I think you really hit on it. I think people look at video as a one-off type of thing. And especially when it comes to content, they look at it, I need to make a video. Either I need to make, if it's a B2B type of environment, let's make a overview or explainer video. We put it on our website. Okay, our work is done. Well, your work isn't done. It's not, you don't work in business as a continuum. And video and content is a continuum as well. And I think that's one of the problems in content marketing in general, understanding that it's a continuous cycle of of strategy, planning, production, measurement, and improvement, refinement. You got to keep going around in that circle. And the same thing with videos. Those companies that just look at a video as a singular event are not really getting the return that they need to from video.
Well, and I know that one of the main hesitations for companies to invest more in video is that they don't feel like there's the proper way to track it, to measure it, whether that's they can't get the budget for it at first, or they do it and they're like, well, I hope this worked. We're spending a lot of money and putting this out there. What are some tools or strategies that companies can use in order to close that loop so they can really make video part of that continual process?
Well, that's an interesting dynamic and dilemma, because I think it goes, if we take the video out of it for a second and we just talk content marketing, or even just marketing in general, just get it down to its basic core. You need to have an objective. You need to know before you go in to do something how you're going to measure it, what your objectives are, how you're going to refine it. Because otherwise, you're just throwing it out there. So now you add content in front of that marketing, or video content in front of it. Now you've got to key in on a specific tool, a specific type of marketing. So when it comes to video, there are a lot of different ways to measure things. You can measure the number of hits. Let's say you've got a YouTube channel. So let's say you put a cat video there. Let's say you're selling cat food. So
so it actually makes sense.
Yeah, so it makes sense. So you've got a cat video there, and you've got 1.7 million hits. Well, that's great, but what do those 1.7 million hits really mean? Because if the measurement is just the number of people that have actually clicked on it once and gone away after 1 second, that may mean one thing, but if they've lasted now 30 seconds, that means something completely different. If they've actually done the call to action that you should have on every marketing video, let's say the call to action is go to the website. That's a classic, kind of boring, but that's a classic call to action. Then you've got another measurement that you can use to determine whether the video is working for you. But it only is a measurement that means something if you've determined what is the level that means something. Yes.
Up front, yeah. And I feel like to that same point, a lot of companies they consider YouTube as the extent of their video marketing strategy. They're like, okay, so we pop it up on YouTube, hopefully we optimize it, and then we put that in bed and we put it up on our website, and that's it. But you're very limited in terms of the metrics and the personalization and things you can do. So what are your thoughts about where YouTube fits into the video marketing ecosystem and what lies beyond it for companies?
Well, I think if you would ask most people out there and you say, when I tell you the word video, what comes to mind? And most people, YouTube would be one of the first things that would come up there. So I don't want to bash YouTube. YouTube is a great thing, and it should be utilized, and probably utilized by any company. But it doesn't necessarily have to be the main distribution mechanism. And I think one of the things is that a lot of companies, especially in the B2B environment, they don't really know what other distribution channels are available. Now, whether you host it on something like a Vimeo or Wistia or Vidyard, Brightcove, there are a number of other companies out there where you can host your videos and you get to control how that video actually looks, the player, in which that video is going to be presented to you, the thumbnails, all of those different things. That's an important thing, because think of what is the purpose of a video. It's to convey a message using imagery, using the visual. And so if you're not controlling how that image is seen to begin with, then it already reflects on you either poorly or in a positive manner. So let's talk about YouTube. YouTube everybody knows what the YouTube player looks like. And if you go to YouTube, on the website, YouTube website, you'll have your video, and then on the side, there's a whole list of other videos that YouTube recommends that you watch. So if I'm a company and I've got my little video there that's, let's say, talking about my company, whatever we do, you know, let's say we make wall panels. Well, over there on the side, YouTube saw the word wall panels, and maybe they've got videos from your competitor. Well, you don't want that to happen. So you don't get to control the universe in which your video is viewed when you put it on YouTube.
And as part of that too, because obviously if someone's starting a search on YouTube, then it's good to at least have the video there.
Absolutely.
Maybe are you referring to people who start a search from Google, perhaps, and it comes up? Because I do know that YouTube tends to rank the YouTube link higher than the link on your website because they you know, rightfully so as a business, want to drive ad dollars and eyeballs to YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube's interest is YouTube, not you.
So how does putting it on a custom player like a Wistia or a Vidyard, how does that affect the where people's eyeballs or where people's clicks are being driven when they search for something?
Well, you need to be able to do that in conjunction with a good SEO campaign. You need to be able to put the right words behind it. So let's say you embed your video on your homepage. Well, on that homepage, let's say it's a WordPress website. On the back end of it, you better put the right keywords there. You better give the right descriptions. All those other things that are going to be searched by the search engine crawlers that are looking for that stuff. That's an important part. It's not enough just to embed the video there and think that it's going to be found.
And then how about just as a final point on these custom players, what are some of the advanced features that perhaps companies just aren't even aware that they're able to track or that they're able to, just as an example, and I'd love for you to talk about this a bit, you know, a lot of companies don't even realize that you can track exactly who is watching your video, not just how many people watch it, but specifically which prospects watch the video. So can you talk a little bit about how those advanced analytics can be used?
Right, so take something like a Wistia or Vidyard or whatever, and you've got the video playing on your website. At some point, if you create somewhat of a gateway and you've now collected somebody's email, then you're going to be able to track that person to their viewing activity on that video. One of the key metrics that is really important is to know, let's say it's a 60-second video. If somebody has watched 33 seconds of it and then stopped watching it, or maybe they watched 33 seconds and then they replayed it back and watched the first 15 seconds because that's really important. You really want to get that information and you want to track it to the person, the direct person. Even if you can't get that direct information from, the person itself, at least you can get that general information, and you go back to that refinement concept that we talked about earlier, that videos always have to be refined, content has to be refined. And you say, well, the first 15 seconds are really resonating. 33 seconds in that video, that's not resonating with somebody. I've got to do something, either recut it and here's one of the powers of these video hosting platforms, the more professional video hosting platforms. You can put a layer on top of it, a call to action layer, or you can put what's called a turnstile, where you can pretty much stop the video for a second and do a call out to the viewer. Hey, do you like what you've seen so far? If you do, click yes, and it will continue. You can make that an obligatory thing that they have to answer, or they can just skip it. But what that means is that you have now paid attention to the viewer activity, and you've refined something either in the video or a layer on top of it to make sure that video is working even more for you. One of the worst things that you can do is spend a lot of money making a 60-second video that people only watch the first 33 seconds of. That means you spent a lot of money for 27 seconds that really didn't need to be made.
I love that, and it affects the strategy up front too, because you shouldn't just think of it as I'm creating a single unit, a video that's being put up on the site and the job is done. So you can measure it on the back end, but then also in the creative and the strategy up front, perhaps you shoot alternative shots, or you shoot different time lengths, or you have, if it's voiceover driven, you could have multiple VO options and then test those different options. So it becomes more like a lab where you have these different ingredients.
Well, I like to use the concept of speaking video. And in a conversation like we're having right now, or people have every single day, billions of times every hour, you don't really know where the conversation's going. And so you need to be able to shift accordingly. And the same thing you need to do with video. When I say speaking video, even though you can't shift your video to the same degree that you can shift a conversation, you can shift that video in terms of where you want the viewer to go. And the viewer is also telling you some of that stuff. It's telling you on the back end when you look at the analytics, but you can also create that with newer techniques that are coming into the world of video and video marketing through interactivity. This is where that educational design came into play, because good educational design means that there's more of a conversation with the student or the viewer or whoever's consuming the content. It's not like, I give it to you, you listen, you either fall asleep, you pay attention, whatever. It's more the back and forth. That's what a conversation is. That's what a language is. That's why you need to learn to speak video.
I love that. Well, and when you're talking about speaking video, you mentioned a really cool story when you visited the Wistia headquarters recently and this studio that they had set up. Can you talk about I think Wistia is a great example of someone who, I mean, they're a video hosting company, so they've naturally embraced content marketing and video on a foundational level. It's kind of permeated the culture of their entire company. So can you talk about Wistia and then in general that, like how companies can start to transform the way they approach content and video marketing?
Yeah, that's a great example. It was an eye-opener for me, because Wistia is not a enterprise level company, not yet. You know, maybe they'll get there. I hope so. I wish them all the success. But what they did was they recognized that in order to speak video, in order for video to be part of their DNA, they needed to make it easy to make videos, both internally, and they do a great job of creating content and educating users on how to use video, all the different aspects of video marketing, from production tips to hosting tips to all those different things that encompass the world of video marketing. So what they did was they set up, I think it was in a, they took an old bathroom and they took out all the toilets or whatever. I think, I hope I've got the story right, but if not, it makes a good story.
Yeah, it makes it better.
and this little cubicle, they just set up a permanent little video shop with lighting and the camera. And so if somebody had an idea for a little snippet of a video, whether it be an internal thing for company culture or something that they could use to market, you know, to prospects, they'd grab, hey, can you come down? Can you come down? I need 2 or 3 people. And it became almost like an improv. They didn't have to go through weeks and weeks of script writing and all the other stuff. It was right there, and it became part of that culture. Hey, we're going to do a little video. No, snap, and it's there.
That's cool, because it makes it much more hierarchical and kind of democratizes the content creation process, and it makes everyone feel like they're part of it. They're part of telling the company story. Yeah. And you mentioned that, you know, these videos weren't just external; they were also internal. And that's a point I think we both agree a lot of companies miss out on, is when they think about content, and specifically video, well, video and podcasts, I would say, as well. They think about only external marketing, like how can we use this to grow our audience or to increase leads. But it's just as important to storytell to your company internally. Can you talk about that a little bit, and some of the power that can come from creating internal content?
Well, absolutely. I think everybody, no matter what level you are in a company, you want to feel a certain degree of relevance, that what you do actually means something, not only to yourself and maybe to the customers, your customers, but also to the people around you that work with you. You want to feel, that gives you a sense of belonging. It gives you a sense of purpose and passion. You know, those are all things that we want for ourselves, but certainly if you're running a company, you want your employees to feel the same thing. So being able to have people share in the content creation, both internally, tell their stories, because companies aren't driven just by, you know, one person or a set of people at the top. And in any organization, you know, the person at the top may not even be the person that has any contact whatsoever with the customers. And it's the people maybe at the bottom. Let's say, think of like a retail store. You go to a retail counter, that person's pretty low on the hierarchy, but that person has so much influence on whether somebody's going to spend money, you know, so that the CEO can decide, hey, you know, let's do this and do that.
And they're also the ones that are dealing with customer problems or answering customer questions and kind of gathering those stories.
Right. And so they have stories to tell. They have stories to tell about not only their interaction with a customer base, if that's in fact where they are, but also internally. So the more that you are able to suck in that type of content and disseminate it internally, it creates not only a sense of belonging and company culture. And you know, one of the things that I read, this was an interesting statistic I read recently. It was, what was the average tenure of a worker at some of these high-tech companies? And it sort of blew me away. I thought people would last there forever because they had stock options or whatever.
Oh, and all these perks.
Yes.
I mean,
Well,
incredible perks.
Well, I love the M&Ms. I mean, I could live off of M&Ms all day, but the average tenure was only in the 1 to 2 year period.
That's
so
it?
Just think about that. That means all of this company culture that, you know, through free M&Ms. But if you're in a smaller company, you really need to invest also in your workplace. And a great way to do that, which doesn't cost a lot, is to do this internal content. And doing, you know, that thing like Wistia, that really brings that company together. You know, at the beginning, for sure, people are uncomfortable being in front of the camera. Oh, don't share that. How many people have you said, hey, don't post that on the Facebook page? You know, it's not a good picture of me or something like that. So you always have that, but as you break down those barriers, people become comfortable. It becomes natural. And it's sort of like a reality television show where you don't even see the camera over there. You just go through your daily activity.
I love it. Yeah, we actually did something similar here at Golden Arm, where we did an internal 30-day video challenge.
Whoa.
Self-imposed, where there were 4, it could have been 5 people from our team that all recorded a video on their smartphone every day for 30 days. Now, not everyone completed it, but we all did at least like 15 or 20 days. And it was huge. I mean, it brought everyone together in multiple ways. One, we started helping each other with them. 2, it broke down the barriers and made us actually rethink about how we serve our clients, because, you know, we weren't doing like big professional videos. We were literally just getting in front of the camera. And then it helped us because we all learned more about each other, and we started to break down those barriers of like feeling the need to be perfect and feeling the need to be. So just in so many ways, it was just a great exercise, and just
you know,
really, really helped.
That's when I hear that is just an awesome exercise. And whether you do it on a smartphone, you can do it now also on your, even if you don't want to, if you want to make it even simpler, you can, whether Wistia or Vidyard, they have these plugins on Google Chrome, where you can actually record.
Oh yeah.
You know, I think on I forget what Wistia calls it. On Vidyard they call it View Edit or something. Soapbox, I think is.
Yeah.
And so that's an easy way to do that. You can create your own like video diary or something like that, and host it there and edit it. You get to play around with it. But I think you keyed on something that's really important when it comes to content, because we're so used to being served content that it's polished, and it has to, and one of the things that I hear all the time in video marketing, well, I don't have the budget for it, I don't know how to do this. Sometimes the most authentic and the most resonating content is the authentic one, the one that is not polished. It's that, hey, that iPhone video, hey, you know, Alex, I was thinking of our conversation the other day, when we went out to lunch. Hey, here's a solution for you. Link, 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 whatever it is. That's the use of video, imagery, making it personal, making it emotional, using the technology. You could do that internally as well if you want to do a whole series of internal videos. I know that I used to work at a large company way back when, and I know that if I had gotten the technology wasn't there at the time, but if I had gotten like a personalized message like that from, let's say, my boss or something like that, maybe at the beginning I might be scared, oh, what's he doing? But I think that I would take it like, wow, this is a recognition that this is important, that, yeah, he couldn't, or he or she couldn't spend the time directly with me, with a cup of coffee, but spent the time to interact with me in a visual level.
Absolutely, and I feel like so many people still undervalue that. They undervalue that personal touch, because that used to be much more so the way business was done, and now because we have these digital tools, it's like we're abstracted from the people that we're serving. But now with just the smartphone in your pocket, or like Vidyard's personalized video, or these like, it's kind of like allowing us to now get back to that point where we can have those personal connections, but at a much bigger scale, if that makes sense.
Well, and here's one of the challenges to video as we move forward as a necessary, and I consider it a necessary marketing tool, just like a website is a necessary business marketing tool. And that is, going back to what I said, learning how to speak video. Video is a business language, period. Just like knowing how to write is a necessity. Maybe that will go away at some point. We're getting to hieroglyphics again with emojis, but video is a language, and learning how to use that is going to be necessary. Now the tools are still catching up with the necessity part of it, but it's going to be there. The more that we are comfortable using imagery and motion imagery, because that's what a video is, motion imagery, the more authentic we become, and the more we can get to the core of things. Now, one of the things about video is that it is emotional. Especially live video is very emotional. Animation video has a lot of advantages, but it also has some disadvantages. A live video, I can look you in the eye, and that tells a lot. Especially, if it's a person-to-person type of product or service, that is very helpful to have that type of connection.
What are some of those tools or new methods that are coming to video that you think is going to help empower that authenticity and personalization, kind of that next wave? You mentioned the tools still need to kind of catch up. What are, as someone who connects with a lot of startups out there and a lot of other video solutions, what do you see as the kind of that next generation of video content?
Well, I think that video, just like a conversation, is short, back and forth, back and forth. I think we're going to see videos becoming shorter and shorter. It's somewhat forced upon us. YouTube, after 6 seconds, you get to click the skip ad type of thing. So we've been trained to that, and Facebook after 10 seconds, then so the big video hosting platforms are sort of forcing upon us to make videos shorter and the attention straight to the point. But we also live in a world where attention spans are reduced because we're bombarded with so much content, so much to do. So I think the more that you can personalize something, create that conversation. So, excuse me. So Vidyard and others have an ability to make a personalized video. So let's say I make one video, but I know that I'm going to email this to 1,500, 2,000 different people. Well, I've got their information. I've got Joe and Sally and all of the different names out there, and I know what they do. I can create a story in my video where Joe or Sally or whoever the person I'm sending this to will show up in the video in some way that I am actually talking. I made this video just for them, even though it's templated. So you're going to see a lot more of the personalization. The other thing is you're going to see a lot more of these non-polished, authentic videos, like what we talked about, the Vidyard and the Wistia options, or even just using your iPhone. I can foresee that there'll be lots of apps that will be developed that will make it really easy for you to create a more business-oriented, authentic little short video and then upload it to wherever you need to upload it. You're going to see a lot more interactivity. You're going to see the ability to embed things in a video or a layer on top of a video. This ability to, let's say you watch 10 seconds of it and it says, and there's a place for you to click or something on the video. And then that will move you to another part in a video. Let's say you're watching a video about a car. And it says, hey, what are you interested? Are you interested in how fast it goes? What colors you can get? The tires? Click here. And if you click tires, it will take you to a part of the video that will just talk about videos, or maybe an entire different video about tires. That interactivity. You're going to see that the viewer is going to be much more in control of the video conversation.
And that really speaks to that, that instructional design approach that you mentioned, is that people want to feel like they're in control, that they can learn and discover things
absolutely
at their own pace. Yeah, and I would add to that too in terms of these shorter videos. I've started seeing more recently, like instead of having, say you're doing a long page about a product, like all the features and benefits, or it's a long case study, instead of necessarily having like one self-contained video at the top and then you have all this text, it's creating more of a experiential design where you'll have little video pieces mixed with graphics, mixed with text, mixed with quotes, and it's deconstructing all these elements and kind of creating something new out of it. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of tools that help empower that more interactive, fluid experience.
Well, I think we'll see that also in website design. You'll see a lot more interactive websites. Interactive infographic type of things. I think that is definitely the wave. Instead of content just being served to you and that you have to take it and pause, fast forward, reverse, you get the control. And from the content producer's side of things, you are the one that's guiding them. You're going to see a lot more gamification. You really have to think, if you're a content producer, you really have to be thinking, how do you want my content to be consumed? What are the different paths? Almost think like a video gamer. Because if you start a video, I'm not a big video gamer, but when I do, I know that there are different paths that I can go down. That's already been thought out by the person who produced that content, that game. They said, hey, if you go down here, you're going to go down that path and maybe this path, maybe you'll hit a dead end and now you have to go back. Well, if you're producing content that you want to have somebody consume and discover, you need to think of the different paths.
To circle back to the beginning of our discussion, we're talking about how businesses approach video. We've talked about all these exciting elements from creation tools to measurement. But how do you look at the big picture? How do you step back and create a strategy that's going to allow all of this to happen and actually give you results for your business?
Yeah, well, I think that is a key point to it, because to be able to speak video in business, you do have to step back. You do need to know. Think of it like a zoom lens on your camera. You start out in a non-zoom position so that you can see the entire canvas. It's really important to be able to see the picture that you're trying to create, or the picture that's in front of you. Now you've created your strategy or your plan based on what you've seen, where you want the company to go, what the content is supposed to do for you both internally, externally, who your customer base is, where they're going, all those different things that become part of a strategy. Now you go into the planning session, and that's sort of like you're now zooming in a little bit more. You may have to zoom in and out a couple of times to get the action plan in place. And then the next stage would be the actual execution, production. Well, you're really in zoom mode now. You're really focused in on a specific part of content creation, whether it's video or whatever the content creation is. The next stage that you would do, and this is part of this big picture concept, you're now zooming out again because you're now distributing it. You're looking at the big canvas of where your content, your video content is going. Externally to who, how are you going to use it? Is your sales force going to use it in a certain way? Your marketing department, they're going to use it in a certain way, etc. Then you zoom in again by looking at the analytics and the measurement. That's a very focused, that zoom lens is going in again. And now you zoom out again to refine it in context with the strategy that you had before, and you just rinse and repeat. Or, I like to use the concept of a wheel, and we're talking about a content engine. This is like an engine, it's the wheels, the engine moves the wheels.
I love that. Yeah, because it really closes, and a lot of people don't, they don't take the time to either zoom in and zoom out. They just, I don't know if they ever zoom out, but even if they do it once at the beginning, and then they just run, and then they never close that loop with the measurement and especially with the refinement that leads back to how can we iterate on this to make sure it's continually improving.
Right, and that's, I think, one of the things that I found most frustrating is how video marketing up to now, the companies that are getting it, that are working on it well, understand this continuous loop. That you can't just jump in and say, hey, I need a video. Why I need a video? Well, because my competitor has a video. Well, everybody's doing video. That's not a good enough reason. But that's in that super zoom in lens type of mode. Yeah, you need a video. I say absolutely you need a video. It may be the wrong one though that you're
yeah, if you're starting off zoomed in. All right, well, thank you so much for being on the show, Joel. And before we wrap up, where can people learn more about you online?
Well, you can go to bigpictureadvisors.com. I also have a new website that I am building called bigpicturevideos.com. And so between the two of those, you'll be able to get more information.
All right, thank you, Joel.
Cool.
And thank you for watching this episode of The Content Engine. Remember that this is a weekly show, so I encourage you to subscribe on either YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Now, put your message in motion.